Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for attending this webinar on My Writing Lab today. I hope to get across as much information about this product as I can in about 20 to 30 minutes, as I know your time is valuable and you may not have too much to spare. So my name is Michael Porteous. I'm the Product Manager for Learning Technologies at Pearson Australia. I'm going to leave everybody on mute today as we've got quite a few people and I can move through the presentation more quickly that way. But I appreciate that you're going to have questions that you want to ask through the presentation. So if you do have any questions, please use the questions box in the system on the right, as you can see here, to ask any questions as you go. So as you ask questions, I will try to answer as many as I can before the end. But if we run out of time, I will send a follow-up communication answering anything that has been unanswered. Okay, so today we're going to look at our Australian and New Zealand version of MyWritingLab, which is a major upgrade from our previous local version. So what is MyWritingLab? We class MyWritingLab as a web-based tutorial and assessment system that offers personalised learning to students and is designed for ongoing student success. Now, this is a system that is used by tens of thousands of students every year all over the world with localised adaptations for many countries like Australia and New Zealand. Our version of this product was changed to reflect what the Australian and New Zealand universities were telling us was most needed to improve writing skills for grammar and for writing in an academic context in particular. I hope this resonates with what you might be looking for to improve literary skills at your institutions, but let's take a closer look at the benefits that MyWritingLab can bring. So the benefits for students are very clear. Students can access this anywhere that they're online. As long as they've got an internet connection and a computer, they'll be able to do their assessments and their learning. Students gain a personalised learning path. So they do a diagnostic test called the Path Builder first, which creates a learning path for them that is directly related to what they need to know and nothing that they already have mastered. So every student is going to receive a different type of experience that reflects what they really want and what they really need. They get help at the point of learning. So they get wrong answer feedback and help from learning aids when they're doing their homework. So they can understand the concepts right when they're doing the exercise, not perhaps days or weeks later when they finally receive an exam paper back. So they get that right when they need to know it. And they get greater success through their university study and onto their careers as well. Students who have better writing skills perform better, learn more, gain more success across their university studies and into their careers as well. Ultimately, we have happier students, students that are confident written communicators and critical thinkers, and they're much happier with their university studies as they get more success and they don't fall behind as much as well. So, how will MyWritingLab benefit you? First of all, MyWritingLab is set up in a way that you can use this for flexible online delivery. So you can configure MyWritingLab to be implemented into different modes of teaching, online, blended learning, face-to-face with an online component. You can structure this very differently. There's a sort of standard setup, but you have a lot of power to go in and change that to match your course needs. Time saving. So MyWritingLab automatically diagnoses, grades, checks mastery and provides streamlined essay marking as well. So large classes of students, we know, especially with written work, is an incredibly time-consuming task where you aim to make sure that we're reducing this as much as possible for you. Student performance visibility. So student work results overall and individual class performance can be checked in real time, so you can monitor progress, intervene with failing students and adjust your teaching and instruction on the fly if you can as well. And greater student retention. Students who are better prepared for university with core writing skills are more likely to pass more subjects and continue their university studies through to the end of their degree. So these are some of the main advantages of using MyWritingLab, which can really improve the outcomes for your students and save you a lot of time as well. So let's look at the student experience of MyWritingLab first, what the students are going to see and do. So first of all, when a student comes into MyWritingLab, they're going to be greeted with this. They're going to see what assignments are due, what their learning path is, any announcements you have. They've got a browser check to make sure they've got everything up to date on their computer if they need to be, and they've also got a calendar there of any work that is assigned by you that they need to complete as well. So the first thing they'll need to do is they're going to need to do this writing path builder. And this is a diagnostic check that is going to assess their strengths and weaknesses across all of the topics and modules that we have, although you can customize this down if you're using a subset of what we provide. So this is a typical question they're going to receive in that learning path builder. So they're going to be asked a question, they're not going to get any help. This is here designed purely to make sure we're assessing what they do and do not know against all of the learning outcomes that we're trying to track through MyWritingLab. You'll notice here that in this particular one there's 180 questions, which is quite a lot, but as I said, you can modify this down, but we're trying to be as comprehensive as we can to make sure they're getting all the help they need. So once a student completes that, they're taken to their learning path. So here we can see that they've completed their path builder. They can review that if they want to, see what they got right and wrong, or if they feel they had a really bad day, they can retake the whole thing as well if they choose. But after that, they're going to be taken down to their learning path. So you can see here, we've got a number of different modules that the students are being asked to work through. And where they've got a little pencil icon, that means they need more to study within that module. And once they finish it, it'll put a little star for mastery as well to let them know they've completed it. You can also see that they list how they're going with the topics within that module and the overall number of activities that they've done within all those topics as well. And a little bar creeps up there. Now, at the moment, I think they can go into any of these. You can put prerequisites if you want to, but so far the students can jump in and do what they need to do to learn so that they can see at a glance where they're at and where they need to do more work. So this is the personalised study that MyWritingLab provides. Every student is going to have a different level of modules and topics within those modules because every student is going to have a different level of writing ability. So if a student clicks into the module, this is what they're going to see. Down the side here, they're going to see all the topics within that module and which ones they need to master. And then each topic has a section of activities that they need to complete. And we call this scaffolded learning or progressive learning. We're trying to build them from a very base level of understanding to a much higher level of understanding. So first of all, students are going to see the learning objectives. They're going to then watch a video. Then they're going to do some recall questions. Then they're going to do some more sophisticated apply questions. And then they're going to do a writing exercise at the end. And finally, they'll do a post-test to make sure they're embedding all the knowledge that they just learned. And that's for every single topic that they need to work with. They can also review them as they go as well. And they get multiple attempts, and if they exhaust those, you will be alerted that the student needs more help. Excuse me. So we'll jump into what these are. So first of all, we want to make sure that they really understand what they need to learn first, that they know the learning objectives, they know what they need to learn this topic. Then they go on to watch a video. They're usually between 4 or 5 minutes or so, and they are with voiceover as well and animations, just to give them a run through of what that topic or module is all about and what they need to learn. So most of the information, instructional information they need are within this video for them to watch. Once they complete that video, they can go on to the recall question. So this is just a snapshot of a student that's working through their recall questions. You can see when they've got it right, when they've got it wrong, and shows here that they can just view that animation again as they go through it. When they're doing a question as well, we try to make sure that we're giving them all the help they need. This is a learning exercise after all until they hit their post-checks and mastery checks. So when a student gets a question wrong, as they have here, then we see here that they're given some hints on why they've got it wrong. It's not just telling them, no, you're wrong, yes, you're right. Oh, pardon me. It's actually showing them why they've got it wrong. And if they get it right, because they could guess or not quite understand, it'll tell them why they've got it right as well. So we're making sure that at each stage that they're doing something, they're getting some feedback on that, and they're really understanding and learning as they're going. You'll notice on the side here they've got quick access to the animation. They can print the question if they choose to. And they can also send an email to you or somebody else if you put an email address in. You can turn this feature off if you want, but it's an easy way for them to send a question if they're really stuck. Once they've gone through the recall questions, we bump up the difficulty a little bit and give them what we call an apply question. This is where students aren't just being asked to recall a concept, but they're asking to apply that concept to a piece of written work. So here we've got a piece of writing, and the student must analyse this piece of writing and answer the question here. So this is really testing their critical thinking skills and making sure they can apply what they've just learnt rather than just rattling off terms and conditions and so forth. And again, this will come with right and wrong answer feedback as well. And once they've completed that apply question, they go on to a write question. Now, you can disable these. I know a lot of people do not want them because there's a lot of grading involved. We obviously cannot grade every single one of these write questions through our system, so that's left up to you, the instructor. So you can turn this off if you want, but if you do want to make sure that they synthesize that knowledge, then you can leave this on and they have to actually put in a piece of written work for you to grade quickly. And after that, they'll do that post check I mentioned to make sure they're embedding the knowledge, and then they can tick off whether they've mastered that topic or not. Now, once they go through all of the modules and they work through that and they achieve mastery, they can go on and take a mastery check. This is the capstone end test of the entire system. So students can actually do this at any time if they want to, but obviously you'd want them to do all their modules first. And it's set, I think, at the moment at an 80% level, so they have to get 80% right. You can actually adjust that up or down, whether you want to be more strict or more lenient. But you can actually set this mastery check to be opened later in the semester if you want to make sure they don't try to jump to the end immediately. And that's where a lot of their instructors using this will take their final mark from. So that was the student experience in a nutshell. They go through and do all that work. They get that personalised assistance as they go, and they make sure they work through at their own pace through to the end of that mastery check. And then you can then manipulate that on the back end to fit your course needs, which I'll go to in a bit more detail on the instructor experience. So when you log in as an instructor and create your course, you can then set up, obviously, all those base level things that you need to know. When it's available, course access for your tutors and yourself, what you cover if you want to cut out some of the modules and topics, and you can also turn off the Ask the Instructor or the animation, although we recommend you do not turn off the animation as it's the main part. Then when you get into the system, you're greeted by this menu on the side. Now, students get the same menu, except they do not see anything with this little icon here. That's for instructor eyes only. Students can get their course home and their course materials and support for the product as well. So they have a much more limited view. But as an instructor, you get a course home manager, so you can adjust that home page a little bit. You can set announcements through the announcement manager. You can play with the learning path through the learning path manager. And you get a lot of really granular detail in the activities and assessment manager, where you can also create your own assessments, change our assessments, and do a whole bunch more. The course settings I just showed you before, and the gradebook I'm going to go into more detail later, as well as the course roster where you can look at your students enrolled and disenroll people and so on. So let's look at the Learning Path Manager to start with. Through this, you can do a couple of things. You can reorder the modules or topics to be in the exact order that you want for your teaching. You can change that mastery requirement if you want to be more lenient or more strict depending on your course. And you can customize that learning path, and you can set whether they have to do the diagnostic or you can make them go through and do everything, and a few other options there. Now, if you go into the assignment manager, I'm not going to go into a massive amount of detail here because there's a lot more options than I can explain in 20 minutes. But here is where you can create your own assignments if you want to set specific work as you go. you can see all of the assignments and activities that we have in our system already. You can adjust the writing path builder, the mastery check. You can adjust any of our questions. You can create your own questions. So there's a huge amount of customization that you can do here, including things like setting prerequisites and a whole bunch of other things. And if you confuse the difference between quizzes and tests and homeworks, tests have no help and no learning aids, whereas the homeworks have all that help and learning aids with it. So let's take a look at the gradebook now. I know this is very important to a lot of people. So here in the gradebook you'll see we have a few different options. It's a very powerful and easy to use online system that gives you visibility into student performance and your class as a whole. So here you can see you can export your data. So if you need to put it into your LMS, you can easily pull it out of our system and put it into your own. You can view different views of the gradebook, which I'll go into in a bit more detail. And you can quickly see your enrolment list here. And you can click in to anything that's highlighted and see a student's work in incredible detail. If you want to drill right down to every single question they asked, you've got complete visibility into what your students are doing. But let's take a little bit of a look into the different gradebook views that you can get. So the first view is the learning path view. You can do this by module or by the topics within that module if you want a bit more granularity. And you can very quickly see your student list, where they're at, when they've logged in, how many they've managed to master, how many they've assigned need study, how many they've completed, and how many they still have to go. So you've got this really quick snapshot of how your student is doing. Some might be keeping up with the work very well. Some may not have even logged in for weeks on end. So this is a good way to very quickly check where your students are up to. You can also view this by all assignments. Now you can see here we've got a huge amount because every topic is an assignment, but you can also see any of your created assignments here as well. So you can see how your students are doing as a whole on average. You can also break it down by student, so you can see the student and how they've done with each test and each homework. Now, the learning path in this particular system might be a little more relevant to you, but this does give it a level of granular detail, and you can see these are highlighted, so you can drill in and see how they've done in particular assignments if you like. But another way to view that might be through the performance by module. So you can see here that they can open up these modules and see all the topics underneath, and you can see how well the students have done in your class as a whole. So if you've got particular tricky topics, you can quickly go in and see how the students are handling that. So as you can see, there's a huge amount of data there that you can view very easily. You can pull that data out, you can manipulate and change things. It's a really useful tool to keeping on top of where your students are at and making sure you have all their grades there stored and ready to go. The last bit that I want to show you is a really useful little option as well. We have these alerts. So here you can very quickly see work that needs grading. You can see exhausted resources. So if a student has tried to master and has failed, then you can see that these students have no longer any work to do. So that's a bit of a red flag that this student is not coping and they might need some individual attention from a tutor or a student officer. And you also see an inactivity here where there'll be a number next to that if there's students that have not logged in to complete any work in a few weeks. So a good way to track if any students are really just not making that attempt. So hopefully you can see this gradebook is a really powerful tool for tracking, grading, and managing that student cohort. Now, we've got a really new feature in MyWritingLab that wasn't available in the previous version. It's a very new feature for Pearson in general called the writing space. This is a type of writing assignment that will help you transform the way you assess written work online by providing an easy-to-use, streamlined, rubric-based assessment and feedback system. So the writing space gives you clear, defensible grading backed by the power of integrated plagiarism checking with Turnitin, which I think a lot of you may use within your own learning management systems, and peer review options as well. So this is something that you can create assignments for your students outside of that learning path if you want to give them some written work, and it gives you a much better way to grade this work, especially in large groups where you need to save as much time as you can. So let's have a closer look. So this is what a student would see when they log in. They would see a task list here, which gives them an idea about what they should be doing and where they're at. So here it shows them that they are submitting a draft, then they'll get their peers to review that draft. They can review, then review their peers, and go back. So this is a really complicated system that if you did this in pen and paper or via email, it can get really tricky. This system handles all of this for you. It gives them a clear path of where they're at and what they need to do. You can also put in an additional draft if you want them to review all that feedback from their peers and change their writing and then resubmit it for you to finally assess on the end. You'll also notice on the side here, there are a bunch of tools which are really helpful as well. And this is fully editable by you as well. So this is a basic, what we put in as Pearson. We give writing instructions, we give the peer review rubric that they need to use. They get a writer's guide powered by a product called Pearson Writer, which is a really in-depth guide on how to write good essays. They also get a checklist. If you want, you can add a checklist. So you might say you must do this, this, and this before they start writing. And there's also a dictionary and thesaurus there as well. So you can add more resources, more checklists, more sample documents to this when you set up a writing assignment as well. So you can customize this so students get all the help that they need at one point. This is just a quick look at the peer review system as well. You can turn off peer review. You don't have to have peer review on. But if they do, students will be able to mark other people's work, and they'll be able to then give a grade from 1 to 4 based on that particular rubric and how well the student has written around, say, development ideas, organisation, conventions, and so on. And they can add comments as they go as well. So this allows students to be able to show what it's like to actually mark an assignment, and that really helps them understand their own work when they're seeing other people's work, and have got to apply that critical thinking to their writing too. As an instructor, you've got a slightly different grading rubric. So you'll see the same sort of thing, but it gives you a percentage score, which you can change if you feel that some of these have more weight than others, and scale from 1 to 4, which will then give a accumulated score, but you can adjust that up and down if you feel that the rubric didn't quite hit the mark as well. So it's really easy to grade this. You can read it, you look at those rubrics about how they develop their ideas and organisation, give it a score, it comes out with a grade. And this is really good if you have team marking as well, where you know that everybody is using the same playbook. You can also add inline comments as well. So if you want to add in some information there for the student to review and see, then when they receive that back, they'll quickly see where you've added a comment for them to improve. And talking of the rubrics, we supply a whole bunch of different rubrics, but you can create your own or adjust ones that we have as well. So this is an example of an organisation rubric here. So it gives a very clear guideline on why they should mark it 1 to 4, depending on how well organised it is in this case. But you have complete flexibility over all of these rubrics. So that is the new system in a nutshell. So I just want to quickly go over what's new, because I know that there are some people here who have used our previous systems who want to know what is the upgrade. So you've probably seen some of it there, but to sort of break it down very quickly, one of the main things we've got here is a new platform. So it's in a completely different system that Pearson owns, and this change has given us a lot more options and features, especially in regards to customising the entire system itself, as well as questions which couldn't be done before. This also allows us to integrate with your learning management system a lot better as well. And overall, it's just a much better user experience for yourself as instructors and for the students too. We've also given a complete overhaul to the videos. The videos in the previous edition weren't received as well as we'd like, so we upgraded them and made them a heck of a lot better. So there's a mix of Australian and UK accents. They've got voiceovers where before they just had subtitles. So now these are much more professional, much more enjoyable to watch videos as well. One of the major points here, though, if anyone has used it before, is we've had a complete module and topic overhaul. So it's completely different from the first version. And we had to do this because we needed so many different upgrades, and we received so much feedback on what we had that we needed to go in and restructure that completely. So if you are going from the first version to this new edition, then you will need to go back in there and reorganise things a little bit more based on these new modules and topics. We've also added in the post-test questions I mentioned as well, which weren't in the previous edition, just making sure there's that gateway of checking what they know and making sure they're getting towards that mastery goal. So I hope that answers any questions previous users have for the new edition. Now, another important part of choosing a Pearson product is the high level of support you'll receive. We have people out in the field who can meet with you. We have in-house customer experience staff who will be able to help you set up and implement MyWritingLab into your teaching. And we also have learning technology managers who can do complete training days with the faculty, and they also work with direct integration into your learning management systems if that's a way we want to go. Not only this, we have a 24/7 customer support website that can help with any technical difficulties for you or your students through email, live chat, and the extensive knowledge bank as well. Within the MyLab, you might have noticed there was a tab there which said product support, and that will bring up this list here, which gives them the system requirements. There'll be a user guide for you, the instructor, a user guide for students if they want to look into it further. There'll be a link directly to the MyWritingLab support, part of our 24/7 website, and also a link directly to the knowledge base in case there's a question there that's already been answered in detail. So, we're really committed to making sure our products produce the outcomes that we envision and that you want, and we realise that a large amount of this comes from working closely with you and making sure that you have that support to make sure everything runs smoothly and everything works in the way that you want it to work within your course. All right, I'm a little bit over time, but we have time for questions now. So I'm going to go to the question tab and see what we have. We've got somebody asking, is this tablet friendly? At the moment, it is not, but this is something that we're working on. This platform is going through a process of being upgraded to be able to work on any tablet and phone and so forth. At the moment, it is flash-based, so it won't work on Apple devices. It may work on other tablets, though. Now, we've got another question here. Can you link submitted work with Turnitin? So, through the writing space segment, not those little writing pieces, activities at the end of the modules, but the writing space ones, you can turn on plagiarism checking. So when students submit work, it automatically feeds into Turnitin, and there is a little originality tab, which had nothing in it in that demo I showed, but that will then come back with the usual Turnitin details on whether that student has been plagiarizing or to what level and what degree. So that part is directly linked with Turnitin, yes, and it comes back into our system and feeds back to you. Asking the cost for individual students. So I prepared for this one. So the cost is $39.95 as a student purchase if they purchase it through our website, but it also can be packaged with a textbook at a discount if you wanted to go with a particular book that we have. And we also offer discounts based on student numbers if you're going to be purchasing this as an institution. So if you purchase it for a large body of students, we'll look into that pricing and see if there's any discounts we can give as an institutional purchase. And we can also then integrate it with your learning management system as well. So are there any more questions? I've got some here from John, but I'm not quite sure what you mean. I might have to email you that, John, and I'll follow that up. There is no textbook or specific text that goes with this, so it stands alone from any of our traditional textbooks, but we do have good books on writing as well, which it can be shrink-wrapped with. They aren't directly linked to the product, but we do have books on writing and academic writing, which it can be, like the Little Penguin Handbook is one of our more popular ones. Okay, I've got another question here. So we've got a question, do you have to set up a class or can you direct students in need to this so they can purchase it and work through it at their own rate? So kind of. You do need to set up an initial class, Robin, where the students will have to give in a class ID to be able to get into it, but that doesn't take much time and we can work through that. But after that, you can set it pretty much on learn-only mode. So the student can go in and then they can be directed to do that path builder, and then they can just work through the learning path on their own to the mastery check. Now, you don't have to do anything further on that. The system will do everything for that for you. So if you want it more as a remediation tool to give to individual students, yep, it's absolutely workable like that. You just need to set up that initial class to make sure it's there for students to log into. But that's not difficult, and we can help with that. Oh, okay. John's just clarified why only 1 to 4 with the rubrics. So you can only mark 1, 2, 3, or 4. I'm not sure the reason to that. That's simply what the system does. So it only has a grade from 1 to 4, not a grade from 1 to 10. That was obviously a design decision by the people who made it, but I'm not quite sure the reasoning behind that. You can change that score manually, though, up and down if you feel that the granularity isn't enough for you. So that's there to make sure that we didn't have too many buttons probably, and the user experience might not look as good. Okay, we've got a few more questions. I think there's 1 or 2 more. Can you change the questions? Yes, you can change our questions. So you've got full access to all the stuff that we've already made, and you can go in there and change those questions. And you can add your own questions as well. So you've got a lot of customization ability there. So absolutely you can do that. Okay, so listen, I am going to have to go, but I'm going to keep this open for just a moment longer for you to answer any more, put any more questions in. I'm then going to go through those questions at a later date. I'll answer them all, and I'll put it up on our website for everybody to read those questions and see what everybody else is discussing. And if you do have any further questions, then feel free to contact me, and we'll make sure that we can go from there, or we can make sure one of our field sales people can get in touch with you as well. Just very quickly, can students go into MyWritingLab through Blackboard? If we directly integrate it with your system, yes, we can. Excellent. Thank you very much for that, guys. I'll leave it here. And if any of your colleagues have missed it, we will be putting all this up online, including the entire recording, so they can watch it at a later date as well. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.